center line, part her in half. So one of the things we need to consider, obviously, on any kind of one length is what hair needs to be, again, what cut and what needs to be dry cut. When we're dealing with colics, growth patterns, things like that, that obviously is the area that is going to need to be on the dry side. So with the mannequins, the way they are set up, this is kind of the area that I always say they kind of plugged in at. So with that being, thinking of that as your colic area. So I've created, just basically divided it in half, find the highest point at the head. Traditionally, I just want to take a little section of hair that comes from each side of that. And because I want to come down almost into kind of like a triangular section. This could be a rectangle if it was bigger, like if she had double colics or something like that, we could do it that way. But most of the time, mannequins, it's gonna feel more like a little upside down triangle. So I've got my section. You're gonna wanna keep it nice and clean. Think of your intentions on how to, if you're gonna control this, this will always be clipped up, nice and tidy. Pin this out of the way. And then you're going to then, again, I will clean my parts. Then I'll have this side, and then I'm gonna have that side. So you're only gonna have 3 sections total. One is gonna be your dry cut section, and then you're gonna have your wet cut. Now, if you had a bang section or fringe area, you would then wanna clip that also out of the way. But we don't have any kind of fringes that we're gonna worry about. So with that being said, it's just gonna be straight down the back, divided her in half, and clip this out. So I've sectioned out the first section here. So obviously we've got our dry section, our 2 just divided in half for control purposes, our big sections, and now we're doing a subsection within it. Because we're talking about doing more of a triangular shape today, I did definitely take that slightly diagonal forward parting. So whatever we carve in the inside does help reflect what we're gonna look like on the exterior. So the perimeter is gonna look like. So my thing though is that some people will go really extreme. It doesn't complement as well. So again, think about it as a necklace, a line. How's that gonna lay on her neck? That's gonna be more complementary. Unless you really want something that's extreme, but even then, most likely you wouldn't do that in a one length technique. So one of the things you're gonna see me right now is I'm gonna go into the position of a lunge, or even what we call the warrior stance. That way you can lower yourself down. I tried as hard as I could to balance this point where I'm gonna exit out. So obviously there's my center part. I come out when I'm creating my section over here with the big comb so that I can create that angle, just slightly refining it. And we want to exit at the same point. So that way these are going to be the same length. So when I cross-check my haircut, I'm going to have that balance. So I'm coming in, I have my moisture. You don't want it dripping wet, but you definitely want to keep it at consistent moisture level. And then what you're seeing me do now is really about the combing. So most of the time, we have a tendency to comb into the neckline. So we like scoop it this way. We actually want to go the exact opposite and make it fall away from the neck. So combing it so that the hair falls more naturally away from the neck, which is how the hair is going to fall in the regular dry state of being. So we don't want more graduation, we want the least amount of graduation. So by doing it that way, we're going to get that effect. Then we're going to take our comb, find balance. So we're going to have our thumb balancing it, put 1, 2, 3. Your pinky is going to go underneath the comb, so it's like your little kickstand to keep the balance. So again, so that way it's just your wrist moving. So that way you can create a really nice angle either direction. Your scissors now, comb is done. Now you're taking it into your scissors technique. Again, allow your blades to fall away from your hand. And then you're going to allow that first ring just to go on your first knuckle, and then you're gonna slightly have it where it comes towards you with your pointer finger, and that way your thumb, you don't want the blades to come in, you want your thumb to go to the blades. So that way you're just opening and closing your shears and having the most amount of control. So the pressure should actually be where the blade, the thumb is pushing away and that ring is coming in. So that way you have control. So if you want, you can rest your pinky, you can put it in the air, whatever you want. Because we are going to come in more like right down below, and my position is now going to look like this. You can keep the blades as flat as you want by resting your pointer right on top, or you can slightly have them tilted so that you can cut with a little bit of a bevel, so it'll be slightly diagonal. So you'll probably see me on a slight bevel. Traditionally, that's how most of the clients like to see their hair. So I'm going to come in the center, comb straight down, go a little below the comb, recomb. I'm going to come in on my diagonal. I'm going to keep my elbows as close to my body as possible. And coming in. And again, I'm going to come to the other side, coming up. Check. Let's see. Bring in the 2 strands, so just a little longer, not by much. Cap if you need to, especially when you cut off the extra hair. Bring that, tap it in, and then just cut. You can see I'm bringing it pretty close to the rubber of the neck, not really high into that, so that we have space to cut for our future haircut. So just the rub of the neck. And checking, taking again from the same point on each side, bringing it together, bringing it to center. So we're pretty good. A few little stragglers. And that is all you want to do. If you have more than a couple of stragglers, then you want to go in the regular way. If you can just dust it like that, that's fine. Otherwise, wait till you dry. Then you'll check your cut dry. Okay. So you'll get your perimeter. After you do your perimeter, you're going to then cut at least 2 more sections so you get to the top of the occipital bone. And again, you're just taking what you can control. So at this point though, what I like to say is you're almost gonna tick-tock, is you're gonna do one, then you do the other. You're gonna do one, then you do the other. This way, you could take the sections of hair, they don't confuse you visually by dropping the whole thing down at the same time. You're gonna comb this hair out, away, or get all the lumps, bumps, anything that might cause it to be uneven. Combing it where it doesn't crush into the other section of hair, just laying on top of that next section of hair. Come into your lunge so you lower yourself. We don't want you to overlean. We want to keep your back straight. Again, your comb, find that balance. Again, lightly comb into it, don't crush it. And then what you're gonna, the most important part is what I was saying about seeing through it. You're gonna see where your guide is. You're gonna go slightly, just very slightly, longer than your previous section. So that's why it's important to be able to see your previous section. And then remember, this comb is not going into the neck, it's coming back. Because we wanna keep the length. So if it goes in towards her face, you're going to round out the corner. You keep it back, you're gonna make the length and create the new guide, because again, this section here, there's no guide yet until you drop it. So we'll be sure we fill everything in. One more time. So again, you're gonna take that same diagonal parting. Be sure this and this one is the same place, mine is not, so I'm gonna do it again until I get to that same place. It's just the big tooth of your comb. For control, think of it almost like a pencil. You're just combing it into. There. One more time, should be perfect. So this is where you're spending some time. Do not rush on your partings, especially with mannequins. I know they're not always the easiest to work with, but you want to have clean precise partings so that you have a better perimeter. So again, now that we're here, take those 3 hairs here. Take your section, again, comb it out, away from the head. Do not crush it. Make it nice and clean. Allow it to naturally fall over. Again, get into your lunge position to lower yourself. Find the comb, create that balance. Use your pinky underneath to keep that kickstand. And then you're gonna come in at your parting. So you see that diagonal parting. Follow it down. Do not crush the hair in. If you need to, you can tap, find your guide. There it is. So you're slightly longer. And you're gonna be sure you keep that edge coming over here, not in front. So I'm gonna check and check, take my pieces, find the center. Just a smidge longer than that last one. Just fine, I'd rather have it a little longer. There it is, dust it off. And then just allow it to fall naturally, beveled under. It looks really good. One of the main reasons, again, just for a reminder, why am I leaving it longer from the previous section? The main reason that you're leaving it longer for the next section, and each one gets slightly longer, is because you're dealing with head shape. So that's the important reason. Again, when we scoop in, we're creating graduation. If we comb it hard, we put too much tension on it, so then it's gonna shrink incorrectly. So this is why we wanna keep it out, let it natural fall. And then again, because this part now is at the occipital bone, we now have to go out and down. So each strand of hair is going out and down, next one's gonna go out and down, so that it actually creates a true 0 when you're drying it. So that's what we're doing this for. So please do not rush. This is just your timing. You're just gonna repeat. So I'll do one more section, but you guys can go ahead and get up and do your 3. So as long as your sections are about the same as mine, it'll be 3. If you do bigger, then it'll be 2. You do smaller, 4. We've got our shape. You can see we've got that nice like kind of triangular effect going on. We've got our strong one lengths happening. Now when you're coming in here, obviously I have probably one more section that I can do that's gonna lie in the back of her head. So I'm gonna finish that one. In again, just like I did before. Sometimes I think one thing I'm also noticing, you guys, and you may or may not know, so you might want to come here for just a second. I want you to see what I see. Can you see how much I stop before my section ends? So you can see there's the guide right here, the cut that I've cut. Do you see how much above that I'm at? You're butting your shears up to that point, so you're not giving yourself that extra length. So what I'm doing is literally adding it, tapping it about an inch approximately. I stop, see where my hair is, and then do you see how it's much easier for me to see how much lower I am up that way? And that's my cheat. That's what I'm cheating on with you guys. You guys are not giving yourself the cheater way. So cheat. Don't go all the way down there. I'm telling you, it's like one of my biggest learning curves was like, okay, I see that I have space, I have that, and this little hair, so these guys don't have a guide. Always remember when you're working in this area here, you will always have to create a new guide. There is no guide for this piece of hair because all of this is all filling in as you're working. So each section you're filling in. So with that being said, I won't have a guide piece. So I have to angle my comb to give me that gap. So sometimes it's pain because it's dry, but that's what's really important. So, because I think sometimes also you're forgetting, so like when you were down here, this will have no guide. When I came here, this piece has no guide. So just remember that. So you're having to overdirect. Remember the word overdirect? So in this situation, overdirection means creating the angle in your comb. That's your overdirection. That's going to create the triangular shape. If you don't overdirect, you keep it flat, you're square. If you do the tilt up or the tilt in, that makes it round. So that's your shape creator. Okay. So with that being said, I just want to be sure you guys really understand how that angle of that comb tip, how it's flipping, makes a difference. Comb it just to be sure. Again, if you need to, if you feel like you've condensed it too tight, air out the hair. So this, when you see me doing this, it's actually to air the hair, so it allows air movement, just like as if I was blow drying the hair indirectly. So I aerate the hair. I then know, comb it out. Again, there was that much hair that I took. I'm approximately going to stop about that much before the bottom. That way I can see that I'm not cutting my guide, and I'm actually slightly longer. And then I'm going to angle this down so I have that tilt so I can create a length. And then I bring them together so I have like 8 hair so I can nip that baby. Put it in the because usually you're gonna have hair that's gonna fall over. Sometimes you might, even like in the real world, you're not gonna do a solid one length. Like you're going to do some kind of layering, or you've done something else on top of that. So this is where the perimeter really exists. Sometimes, like I said, it might even be that you stop at this point, but we knew what we had, so we could go as far as we did. I'm gonna check the shape at this point, check underneath. Again, you can have her tilt down, but you can see, I don't even really have her tilt down too much. What I'd rather do is lower myself down and get underneath it and visually take a peek. So this is where you're wanting to almost take your blades from where you've been cutting on the more horizontal side, almost take them as vertical as you possibly can, so you almost feel like you're cutting up and down. Because what's going to happen is you're going to take this and put this against this blade here. Your moving blade is going to actually almost get it against your skin. That way when you're cutting, you're not cutting any of that top layer, you're just cutting the hair that's underneath, which is the shooters, the pieces that are shooting out. So you can just glide, and as you can see, I kind of go in and then I exit out again. No. Come in, I'm going to clean up underneath here, all the way around, and then again, in the perfect world, you just work around your client's head, you have her tilt, a little side to side action. But the most important, I really feel like makes that difference is changing the blade angle. Because can you see how much more cleaner it is? And then you're not altering anything you've done on top. Have her tilt away. I would just have them shake. I really do like having the client move their head, shake a little bit, and then see what's gonna actually shoot out. And that's why it's good on dry cutting, because it is freehand. Then you're going to take your 2 pieces and double check, bring it back to center. Keep it down as low as possible so you're not adding elevation. Sometimes I'll see people checking their one length and they bring it like up here. The problem with that is now you're putting graduation. You're checking it in graduation land versus where you actually cut it. So now you've done all of this, after you're happy. If, of course, you know, we were trying to soften this more, you could definitely go in, and like I was saying, like sometimes you do like this straight in and pull out if you were trying to get those softer pieces. So you could definitely do that at this point also to get that under layer. And don't overcut this right here. Like I know I pull it back and I'm seeing this, but guess what? This is coming from this point. This is not coming from back here. So don't cut something above the ear because I don't have the hair to actually cover that. So just remember, you know, we're just focusing from here to here, not that, okay? Because if you pull that back here, it's gonna give you, again, another false guide. Another real reason to do that first is, guess what? I mean, if this was truly like a one length person all the time, this section of hair would then of course fall over here, and then I would have a good guide to dust and clean up. But as you can see, the layering cut that I had previously is not even going to touch this. So we're just now gonna come over here, finish drawing the rest of the whole entire haircut, and then you'll cross check it again. In, take it to here. At this point, because we're doing square shape, you remember the 2-finger rule, right? Same thing doesn't change. So then I'm gonna come in straight, and it almost looks like you create like a little check mark kind of a spot right there. So you create that line. So this corner here is what we need to be sure we maintain the corner in the bottom. So I would say you kind of like line yourself up to knowing this is the back and then this is the front, or the sides. Cut this section from here to here, actually here to here. This will be the back. Not that you actually have to do this, but just for cleanliness purposes at the moment, I just kind of want to show you guys, like that's why that check mark line, the little point makes a difference. So this is what I know will be in the back. So then again, remember, I now can elevate more here, the dead back. On the sides, I can start going a little bit lower. And then over here, it's almost like kind of where we were like the 2-finger elevation. So you can have a little bit of elevation, but you're not gonna do as much. Again, take a little bit of my previous section from below. So everything else is for sure dropped out, so I can't cut it again. We've already cut it in the right place. I'm gonna over direct this back. Find my guide. So there's my guide underneath. Again, kind of estimating my elevation. Cut. Don't drop the hair, just lower your fingers. Again, I'm going to keep that knuckle here. And then I'm going to then drop and lower my elevation one more time. And sometimes I might even, you can actually say like, I lower myself sometimes to go so that I'm not overlifting. Because when we're cutting hair, we should always be working out of like kind of our heart area, like our chest area. That way we're not overextending our bodies. And that will help create that, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3 different elevations there. Now I'm gonna turn her. And then I'm going to do the sides. So now I'm gonna line myself up with that corner. Take my section here, take the head and tilt them slightly away. Keep the chin, so this line here is now straight. And go back to like 1 finger's worth of elevation. Because we obviously don't really have much to worry about. So try to keep yourself as flat as possible. those fingers like we did before. And that way we can create a nice square section. So when you check your work, you can take a little bit of each thing. Right here, I should actually be able to pull this out and see that I have like this, like point, that corner. That means I did it good. If I don't have it, that means I lost it, I cut it off. So then it's rounded, so it's a rounded back. So you want to have a little pointy spot to keep that corner weight. So you know you did a square shape. Again, I'm gonna do the same thing to now the other side. Straight with a slight tilt down, coming out. Try to mimic the same line. And then I'm going to come in again. Really think about it, it's right about here, plus the 2 fingers, straight forward, which then creates my little check spot. And that's gonna help keep a nice square shape, keep your moisture level consistent. Now again, don't forget, just a previous section, just enough to have a guide. So you're gonna have your guide from underneath and from the side when you're working across. Don't forget your fingertips are now still pointing across horizontally. This is where the head starts to tilt, so elevation needs to drop. Keep those fingers still square. And then drop it again. And then you can see where that's gonna go that way. And now, you can try as hard as you can to keep those fingers as flat. And lower that elevation. That should all be good. The other thing you can do, because again, what did you do? You cut it horizontally so you can cross-check it vertically. So you can see that vertical shape, so I've got the right kind of an angle. So if you want to check yourself ever. Now again, it's going to be a very low one because this isn't high, so just know that that's where the whole kind of coming out like this is going to feel more normal. Just check it. So then I got my last section over here. Head tilts away, jawline line comes up, fingers, try to keep them fingertips pointing down and straight across, come as low, elevation, so that way you can create a nice strong, a couple degrees elevation, nothing too huge. That way you've got your square shape again, and then to cross check it, be sure if you kept your corner, you can see, there's my little point. Bring it up, and you can stand and then just check it. There she is, she's even. All right, so basically then you just keep thinking about the same concept till you run out of hair. You can see you have your guide from back here, so do not cut your back corner. Just dust off. It's just this portion of the head that I can hold it at that elevation, and then I have to drop back down for the perimeter, because again, these mannequins actually have hair here. Some of your clients, you may only have this much that you can actually lift, and then you have to drop this much to create a perimeter. So just remember, what doesn't have a guide below, you need to make that go back down to like almost zero. Don't forget, you can always cross-check your haircut when you're done. Pull it out straight and then angle your fingers and see if there's anything to cut. And when you're all done, blow dry. So our flat wrap, you want to go from one direction first when you're wrapping the hair around the head. And then you want to take it vertically and go straight across the head. So that way you get a real natural fall. And that way the roots are all dry from here to here. And then you want to come in and then bevel that hair and use the paddle brush and use the curve of the brush to turn it all the way around. So you're pulling that straight out. I won't have anything really from here because I've already got the guide. And again, pulling it T to the section, and then I'm just angling it here. So that you can kind of see how it starts to go into that kind of motion. So then the next one, and again, only a little bit of your previous section, so don't take all of this and scoop it, it'll give you the false guide. Just a little bit of previous. So if you need to, like when I first was learning this, I did actually use these clips. So the way I'm demoing for you guys to see it for cleanliness, I actually had to use the clips to master this technique because I wouldn't want to cut too much hair. So it just helped me to stay on top. So then again, I'm now parallel to this parting. My fingers, again, there's my guide. I want to keep the length. So it actually extends out, but away from the head here. So then I can keep the length here so you don't cut in. So just remember that you are gonna pull the back of your knuckles slightly away from the head. You're not gonna press them into the head. You're gonna pull away that way. So then again, this one is gonna come in, take half. Take a little of my previous guide. Again, parallel to this parting. There it is. And then if you need to recomb, you could lower it just slightly if you're concerned about cutting it. Because again, this is about filling in that hole. You can see I went from here, so I'll take my foot and swing it in front of, so it looks like I'm on this kind of an angle. So that way I can come from, and again, make sure you're parallel. So also remember, I did the first one, then I did 1, 2, 3. So I have to do 1, 2, 3 again. Now I'm gonna come in, come down. There it is, guide. Sometimes I have to work back up on this side. And then I'm gonna subdivide this one. So again, the other one wasn't real big. This is my third one, so I have to kind of remember the sizing. Yeah, pull that out. And now you're pulling your fingertips away from that head. So one of the things too is on this side here, so remember we cut it this way, so I can cross-check it diagonally the opposite way, so you can kind of see I have a little something that needs to be dusted up, but not too much. So if it's a little, it's fine. If it's a lot, you have to go back in the way you actually cut it. So again, a little dusting and clean that up. So that is going to swing that way. I have one more to finish on this side. Take a little of my previous section and keep that parallel. cross-check this one. So you're gonna have that effect. Now, again, when it's dry, I may end up cutting and cleaning this up, but I'm not worried about it yet. Don't get too sucked into, unless you got a really strong tail, then fine, dust a little bit. But if it's just like this, don't mess with it until it's dry. Keeping it simple, we're just doing it in the, as we move up the head, kind of sectioning. So we're in the second section. You can kind of see I created kind of my top, which was whatever layers we had. So I just kind of already got it out of my way so we do not confuse ourselves from our previous haircut. So now we just have this. So now we're gonna come in, take a diagonal parting, and I'm going to, it's gonna kind of feel a little bit a mixture of what we did previously with the horizontal and still have some of that diagonal lifting. So just kind of be mentally prepared. So again, we know that this is the highest point of the curvature. This is where it flattens out. This goes back down to low, or even fills in the hole that we have right here because it has no guide, okay? So take a little water, spritz it around. And then I'm gonna come in, take a little bit of my previous section underneath. And then remember, I can build this shape as much as I want. So I want this to come up a little bit higher on purpose. So I'm gonna lift it a little bit more, cut to my second knuckle. And because it's palm to palm cutting, I'm gonna angle this and then one more down. So this last stuff comes and fills in that hole. Really over direct it. So you can, if you can kind of see it, literally the back of my knuckles, for the square shape, it was pointing here. You can actually see it's almost pointing back at me. So really understand where your knuckles are so that you can create and keep that area, okay? So if you lean forward, you're gonna cut and create a hole. It'll become a short haircut real quick, fast. Good or bad, that shall happen. So that's why in beauty school everybody said overdirect, so you don't cut a hole. So now we're coming in here. I'm gonna take that step, doing the same thing that I did previously. Take a little bit of my undercut guide, lift it, check it. See where my guide is. Come here, cut down. And my last one. And again, remember now my fingertips are pointing way over here so that I can maintain. And that's gonna create that shape so you can check it that way. You can hold it down low to see if your angle is there with a triangular shape, but if you're checking your graduation, it actually has to be on a diagonal, the opposite direction. And I have a little bit more line. I've got my shape. So depending on how graduated you want this shape to be, that's when you have to make a decision on when you become a stationary guide. So what's really important is take a look at your client's, have her look up her profile. It's really important at this point. So my girl with her chin, for her volume and her fullness, she could still be a little higher and probably be okay profile-wise if she wanted a little bit more lift. Otherwise, I'm about to where her lift would be good. Otherwise, it's gonna look like her head is like weirdly tilted. Look like you smacked the back of her head. We don't wanna do that. So, so just be mindful that you don't always just keep lifting just to lift, unless she wants that weird K+8, like old look, that old.
Teresa Caputo.
Yeah, like it's dated. Too dated for its own good.
Medium.
I knew you'd know it. Yes, yeah. I'm like, it's one of those ones that you're just like, that's scary. It was scary when it came out, let alone now if you're doing it.
She's still with her hair like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's a certain point to anything. It's time to let it go.
Please.
Kept saying not high enough.
As I watched that thing lift, I was just like, what? doing? And I was cutting hair at the time. So that's really bad because then people were like, I like your haircut. And I'm like,
We're telling her
Says a lot
that.
about you.
Literally.
you might like it, but I don't really want to do it to you. So do I have to? Can I make this a little pretty? I can remember like when I used to tell you, listen to your client, take all of it and go, so after I'd say all of it back, I'm like, so hers is really high.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring yours down so it's a little bit better on your head shapes. My recommendation. Yeah, definitely had a few recommendations on this. And then you had a few clients that would just be like, no, I really want it. And you're just like, okay.
We're like, don't tell anyone I did it.
That's exactly the key answer. My thing. Anytime I have to do something, I'm like, this is for you and you alone. Don't tell anybody else
Yeah.
who's doing it. I'm like, my name is Jenny instead of my last name is Michelle. We'll flip it around. So when they ask for it's Jenny, that's great. Give it to Jenny. And of course, we used to have a Jenny. So when Jenny be like, no, don't say that. I'm like. I don't want to be doing more of those. So you can see how we're now at like a good place. We do not want to go above that. If we go past that, then she's getting something not so good. So with that point, plus actually, if you see how where we're at, we can start adding it to the side of her head. So I just take this and then just come in on that same diagonal. Just remember, again, it's still the two fingers. So you might not feel like it's as steep of an angle. That doesn't mean you can't create it because obviously in the back, you're still going to stand here, again, using just the previous section and whatever angle you're trying to create. That's my stationary guide. Just the second knuckle to that point of the head. You can see that's where the head starts to turn. So now I need to be sure I lower my elevation. Lower my elevation. And then because we had a square cut, I'll be honest guys, you may not have anything to cut on your front. Because again, this is where her shoulders are. So I can't stand over here. I'm gonna stand behind her shoulders. So whatever little bitty comes back towards you, that would be the shape. Okay? So then do that and then repeat on the other side. Stop before you do any more. I just want to see that you guys have got this together before we complete. In the modern real world, if you want to take a quick glance and Google like Bixies, this would be kind of where you'd have to do the underneath, and then you'd do a lot more texturizing and things would change from this point on. We'd start layering. We'd do other things. I just kind of want you guys to understand that why, this is one reason that I kind of did this, because I do the underneath, but about where we're at here is when I stop graduation and I go into something else. And so I'm just going to take this whole thing and just show you, that's all you would do. You just stationary guide it, and you would have this really nice, hardcore graduated bob. And that's what they used to do. If you go to Vidal Sassoon and you Google where this all comes from, especially this cut particularly, Nancy Kwan. It was very, like, the first, like, one of the big ones that, like, Vidal Sassoon got really famous for in, like, the 60s. Nancy Kwan. That's where this particular shape comes into play.